fun stuff. Just spaced it out. But at any rate, I know him as a person who kind of rescued us from oblivion there for a while. We kept slipping and losing ground, and then Robert came in, and we're back on our feet again. I'm really grateful for Robert. I know he's a workhorse. I can hardly wait to hear his poetry. Take it away, Robert.
Well, Linda, thank you for that. And it's a pleasure to read. And thank you, Janina, for your guidance. And to the kind words, it's really a team effort that has brought Poetry Center to where it is today, with people like Bill Cazzini and Mike McGee, and Joe Miller, Scorpiana, excellent. Some of you don't know her. She's our slam master for the San Jose Poetry Slam. And Amy Meyer, long time, also working with Veterans Right. And Brendan Liu is soon to join the board. And our new member of the board, Shaka Campbell, and all the many people who came, participated, and contributed mightily. You know, Jeffrey Leonard, for example, and Daryl Dela Cruz, former treasurer. So, you know, just remember those voices and those names as well. Many others participated. Venus Jones.
You pulled together a wonderful team.
Thank you, Linda. So happy to be here today. Yes, I work at Palo Alto VA and Stanford. It's a bit of a challenge these days, doing that, and also with Swanside Press. Also want to remind people that there is still the contest for the Red Wheelbarrow Poetry Prize, and you can submit all the way up to August 15th. And the winner gets $1,000, sorry. And a broadside printed of their winning poem. You know, I'm having challenges. I'm looking at the screen and I'm trying to look at the camera, which is above the screen. Okay, technology. So remember the contest, and thank you all who have submitted manuscripts to Sejura. That's great. Also want to remind you that Well Read is coming up next month, and we will have featured Janine UC and Indigo Moore coming from New Jersey. He used to be the president of Sacramento Poetry Center, and he is Poet Laureate Emeritus Sacramento as well. So just FYI on that. And there's a little twist, maybe, if anyone had questions now that they wanted to ask me, like a little Q&A before we start the reading, you know, put your hand up. I'll answer any questions before we get to the reading.
Here I am.
And then we can have a little Q&A after the reading if you want, while we organize the open mic. No? Okay. We get to the reading then. I want to dedicate this reading to souls that have passed on, great people that we know, and this reading is dedicated to Jean Emerson and Jack Taylor, also Judith Peterson, all great lovers of the arts, literary arts, and also want to dedicate this to Greg Hall, who passed away several years ago. I'm going to start the reading with some of their work first. So to now Jean Emerson's poem, Birth Sign. God help me. I'm beginning to think my computer understands me. For no reason at all, it told me my Korean astrological sign is the metal ram, so much more like me than the lion I'd always believed I was. This poem comes from a collection titled Enamorada, that's backwards, by Greg Hall, and this is titled My Confession. I wanted to be a man composed completely of white snow, with eyes of dark stone, existing only in winter. In the spring, I would tumble over a waterfall and assume the pale blue of the sky, resting as a small lake beneath a willow tree. She loves me so much, this woman, trailing her branches in my depths, trembling in twilight as I hold the mirror, offering the gift of the first star of evening, and a white heron reflected in my face. I love being water, even more than being ice. But what I love most is being mist, rising before dawn to shift softly among the pines, feeling my way in semi-dark along the riverbank until I can ascend transcendent, married at last to the pervasive flood of the sun. It is perhaps better to be water than to be a man. But it is also almost as good to be a man who can become water, since a woman consists almost entirely of light, and the marriage of light and water is honored by all the diamonds of morning. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Jack Taylor. Thank you, Judith Peterson. Some of the poems now involve children, and a little bit of technology involved in this as well. Signal to noise. Dad, stop, Dad, right here, my son demands, as we return home from a long evening walk. He walks to the edge of yet another garden, stretching out his arms as if to hug someone invisible. Hello, flowers, he announces. And with his face, he caresses calla lilies, lavender, even the dandelions blooming in the gutter. He whispers to them. It takes some time. A secret between him and the flowers. When an understanding is reached, he stands up and announces loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "Thank you, flowers. Good night." Come on, Nikki, let's go home. That's enough, I say, impatient, turning to go. The response as we walk away. What are they saying to you? Shh, you talk too much. You are noise. Family reliquary. Every year, one or two teeth end up in the bright dark of our matchbox, heavier now than the tooth fairy. Packed tight, they make no sound as they nibble a little enamel from each other, learned while doing time inside our nightmares. Their sharp edges still suggest desire for candy apples, meaty nipples, and the salty skin of something almost insubstantial. This is a little game that was played between Nick and myself, lines that both of us contributed to this piece. So the co-author is Nicola Pesich. This is father and son Q&A. When will you melt down the greased mouse traps on your nightstand? But you did not answer. When the night sky burns, why do you follow? Is there anyone in the house that can pronounce your name? Remember, it is still important to ask, why do we need to touch when we now breathe through our devices? Okay, then we might make millions opening a nothing stand. What if I apprentice myself to the wind? Remember your name, both miracle and wound. We had many games in the house. The best ones were the ones we just made up, but this is titled I Spy. I Spy. A chicken egg dyed white. A beehive high in a pine, and crocodile crosswalks. I spy a fire truck with a ladder made of letters. A little girl waving the queen of spades at her baby brothers. That's nothing. I spy the letter A, shot 12 times, and an ambulance rushing a wrench to the ER. I spy a hummingbird perched on a bulldozer's blade. Dump truck, I spy a dump truck full of stones and clothes. Here's a trail of baby teeth inside a biblioteca. Combat boots full of fingers. A school bus with black windows. Women and children pounding the doors of the dude drop in. While I spy you, spying me, spying you, pushing your baby stroller from the hospital, the postman working our street, his pockets full of flies. Poetry is kind of immensely difficult for me because English is my second language. So, so there's little artifacts that pop up into my brain that screw me up. From a dead fox in a suburban backyard. Do not forget to address your letter to the absences, your questions concerning the sky, and the mountain's destination as it disappears, along with the blue songs that nest in your nights. And will I continue to nurse the silvery nerve of the earth, conducting the first and last syllable of your name? To find the silences in there is to glimpse the falcon in flight. Only a few know how to follow, as it collects every angle of emptiness in order to pull out of its dive, while in an instant, the voice of your infant gone. your own breath broken at both ends. Algorithm, this suturing and tearing. Do not bury me in a world of less and less. Wind and sun will wash me, will dissolve the last scent of milk, will scatter us into the voices of others. Travel advisory. How to travel through whiteout country without erasing our name, without following the cracked freeways. Instead, the words for the vast bridges we can't see. The immense dust storm all around us now. And what was it that old timer asked back at the border? What is the address of our most recent birth? And what were we thinking? Better not to outrun the storm. Best be in it. Taste the dust. Graves in flight. The map. Hung in the school library. Yellowing near a row of computers. Every year, a new monster or love affair quickly scribbled in its seas. Its shorelines and borders no longer accurate. A month before the fires, the map gave up, slid to the virtual reality checkout desk and out the window. It crawled back to JJ's across the street. Conversations into the night about basketball, water, surgery. For a time, the lights were out, but the music continued, and they were still serving. They woke up the next morning, hungover, on the back seat of a Skylark. Wind rushing through open windows, drying the whiskey and coffee in its thin skin. Someone's new timeline scratched on its back. The last algorithm erased to shades, room enough for scars to grow. All right, this is a little bit about cancer, core agendum. Either way, I'll get cut. This morning, the doctor drew a map on my chest, lines describing the incisions for me to see exactly. Everything will be removed, down to muscle. And the axillary nodes out too. I'll have drains installed for a few weeks. Will this route give me more time? They say I can avoid radiation. Reconstruction is possible, but I don't know. Beauty. You know, the usual shit. Fuck it. So much gets in the way. And to address future pain and tightness, they recommend I return to climbing and diving to remodel the scars. Sorry about the mirror I punched. The boys still don't know. Please don't tell them. I will, sometime. All right, so this is this is about cooking Turkish coffee. Well, if you're in Greece, it's Greek coffee. That goes back a long way. Anyway, and then you drink your coffee, and then you swirl it around a little bit, and you turn it over. Once it's empty, and let the leaves go down. It's sort of like reading tea leaves. And at the end, you pick it up and you read your coffee cup. Sort of like an excuse to tell the difficult things. Or maybe not so difficult things. Cup reading. There's 6 parts. 1. You will begin a long trip next year to collect baby teeth. Before that, many night trips to natural bridges. 2. How is your health? You can't avoid doctors, but avoid your doctors. You're already taking something you don't need. 3. See this? Up close, it looks like nothing. Your handprint. It remains on a secret wall, flying among birds and fish. 4. Come the summer solstice, you will meet a couple. Unclear what they're doing, studying nothing, it seems. Follow them. 5. All the caves you enter have a secret exit to the ocean. See the feather moving your mountain. Now, 6. Touch the bottom. I used to paint and paint a lot, and as a teenager, and that became very expensive. So, and I went into writing, and that was very expensive too. This is, and I used to paint with knives. I love knives. The smaller the knife, the better. A nude challenges the artist. Don't use your old brush. Find me in all the edges of your palette knives. I'll gleam dark as clay, lone, blood, a relief map for the blind. Blasphemous pilgrim. It is not enough to know that there are cypresses leaning over the cliffs into their continual births. Nor is it enough to know how to build Neruda's boat out of burning matches and newspaper. How to ply the silences with unanswered questions, with color photos of the emptiness, to a horizon of black and white, under an unabridged edition of sky. May the wind teach me how to write the first word of your breath tonight, shape of the sea and the river entering each other, accompanied by the cries of the terns announcing the continual arrival of a pilgrim clothed in scabs and dreams, in your chapel of moonlight, the sound of your voice in the breaking waves, setting my idols ablaze. Black Cat Alchemy. This is about a little cat named Night. Sometimes Night is gone for weeks. When she returns, she brings nothing back but the smell of burning rubber or the river's rot. Grandma says she climbs over the city to shriek and scratch our sleep. Says even the moon will get cut in the name of my brother for all to see. How everyone will disappear for a day and maybe get a taste of their own ash. This is a little bit of a prose poem, and it's called The Stomach. What we call our trawler does not stop at night. It continues to growl, hiss, and pitch for the next catch. Our search for something to love, good enough to eat. Everything processed below deck in half-life. The low value ground and reformed into nostalgias named medley, chorus, family packed dinner. Word now often comes from corporate software, manufacturing, taste. Okay, now for a little levity. This is a little fun. Yeah, fun. I aspire to be boring. Men's corporate casual. Mama sewed a bulletproof sweater for a hedgehog that won first prize for something at the county fair. A special attraction because of its two heads, each one receiving its own neckline, one gray, one grayer. Even the two-headed rattler seemed jealous, staring at the red carpet ceremony. Orders started coming in late that night. Half a dozen tailored sweaters for men with two heads, sequined seams for the darkened soul. She included red snaps, supposedly to help button down their nightmares of sins. Each snap secretly greased to fail. This is Xenopus laevis, African clawed frog. Abandoned, likely by a scientist, in Golden Gate Park, just east of the National Academy of Sciences. The lily pond, your new home. And with no natural predators, you flourish, ravenous, even against your own young. Xenopus, show yourself to the lovers and the children before the Department of Fish and Game arrive to eradicate you with explosives. Show how you hunt whatever moves, including their fingers and reflections among the yellow lotus as they throw coins large as their eyes for a wish while trying to taste the petal. If you claw my palm, I'll call it a sign that you are naming us according to a ruptured light. The scar will remind me during the coming droughts and firestorms that the song can survive detonation, living underground, consuming its own shed skin, with plans to return, with or without us. This is a little tanka. Well, of course it's little. Our black shepherd snaps at bees visiting the blooms in the orange tree. One alights on this green lid, your urn growing heavier. This is untitled. Yeah, where's my white shirt today? Better than my body. Stains that were once plainly visible now change shape within my dirty interiors. Some still hunger for my voice. Never mind my absence in correspondence. My first mentor returns. Oriole perches on the neckline, sings, I too can continue to imitate a horizon, a moment. He wipes his beak, takes a thread, takes flight. Zero hour. And why fear the words will begin to assemble into a song or a riddle more precise than your voice, that your love will offer your wine to the drunk party crashers in return for their turn of the refrain. That's a pretty good bargain. Wind trains the trees and breaks some of them. And maybe the tall grass does want us to lie down in their shadows, as we are little more than mist and trace, dark matter flowing through our daily formulas and core agenda, informing our posture, supporting much of what we cherish, all available to the master thief, who leaves behind illuminated absences and scant evidence. A timeline, maybe scent of perfume, pencil lead, or that lucky smudged print lifted from the family portrait, all cataloged and analyzed downtown and in the cloud until even the evidence goes missing. I'll read from Burned Killam to a red-tailed hawk. Yeah, to a red-tailed hawk. You chose the cinder block wall for this kill. The final stutter of hind legs in the squirrel, head thrown back, belly split, mouth gaping. I slow my breath, hear the tear of tendon and muscle like paper as you open the dark liver and scarlet lungs. How you pierce the hot pleura, gain the last vital capacity. As if sky was not enough. As if to demonstrate a tradition between earth and sky, their trembling dance, the wet stretch of peritoneum between talon and beak, how you claw the umber stomach out, its mass of earth, acorn meat, acids, enzymes, mucus. You drop the dollop to asphalt, regard me with slight interest as I consider the weight of my guts, my anemic blood, the tar, xylenes, cancer radicals, the weight of my pelvic girdle, heavy metals and bone. I plot earth to this witness, your cry, sudden flare of wings, your grip of rigor, how you rise in the perfect hollowness of bone, leaving me bent over the small remains of intimidation, bone, lymph, blood, and the beautiful dark song of stomach glistening, and the shadows they leave, slowly fading with time. How are we doing with time?
You're good.
We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple more if you want.
Okay. In that case, Sejura, and from Sejura, last radio transmission leaving the solar system. We do not leave our home. We wait, but retreat from our windows and doors. Water delivered through a hole in our roof. Flatbread delivered through a hole in our floor. We sleep when we can, with our shoes on and our mouths open. Blackbirds we once despised visit and feed us. An aspect of sky that reminds us of our name. When the sun visits us, we rise and follow borders of light from wall to wall. A way to move from night to night. Studying our family photos, their songs and silences. We compose our own, not unlike an artery or vein, ramifying in the backs of our hands. And then we are plainly seen when embracing the guest, composing in spite of thirst, hunger, and the approaching thunder, commingled scent, carrion, jasmine. All right, I'll end it with this poem, A Window in the City. I was in the back in the bathroom reading the Times on the toilet. A small article under a yellow nightlight because the switch was blown. Quote, old woman finds infant in dumpster, revives him with songs. It was then that I could hear someone knocking on the neglected window in the corner above my face. A small bird, dark as my eyes, returning to her chicks. The nest wedged against the hinge, keeping the window open with its woven mouth of mud, grass, and tangled cassette tape, holding my voice, a few words, maybe a brief song, made useful. Tiny ligature of a greater voice that brings me to the window. Black back alley, bricks, dumpster, and sour diesel. The birds resting in my breath, while outside someone shatters a glass or a mirror under a brief snow of blossoms floating down from somewhere. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, thank you, Linda, thank you, David, Janina, thank you all for attending tonight.